In this video clip, I'd like to briefly discuss a couple of pieces of apparatus that I use in working fronts, finishes, and retrieves. The idea for this, in terms of myself at least, sprung from a Sylvia Bishop seminar that I was attending a number of years ago. At the time, what I was surprised at was the fact that this positioning of the dog only took 3, perhaps 4 reps before the dog initially started to keep his feet under him and started to keep his legs pulled away from the splayed position. At that point, I started thinking to myself, what if it was possible to have a system where the dog could repetitively go through, let's say 6 of these tuck sits in a position that was absolutely bang on and accurate. Thinking about that resulted in my putting together this very simple rectangle that you see here, and I call it my long rectangle. It consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 lengths of 1-inch PVC, 4 feet long, joined together with a coupler in the middle. And on each end, I have a T. And the spacer in between is determined by the width of the dog's rear on a sit. So you bring it in until you start wide, but then bring it in until it's quite snug to the side of the dog and keeps his feet in nicely. I prefer this sort of arrangement to a platform or something like that, because on platforms you can still get a certain amount of body movement that is inaccurate. In other words, a slightly crooked sit. On this particular apparatus, of course, because the dog is sitting in between these 2 lengths and held in that position, he will be taking a position that is accurate. On the ends, here I have T's, and you'll notice that the T's are set so there's an opening here on the end. And the reason for that is because I like to set it up that way so that I can attach what I call my offset H. Now the offset H is simply this particular apparatus, and you can see there's 2 spots, a front and a finish slot. These, when I'm working retrieves, I can attach to the long rectangle. The reason for that is it occurred to me one day that, gee whiz, it might be possible to get much better accuracy on a front if the dog learned to line up with the handler's body from a point out there. And so I developed this system where on a retrieve, the dog goes out, picks up the dumbbell if it happens to be over here, that's not a problem, and swings over, comes down the slot, and goes into his sit position at the offset H. Now you notice that the offset H, when plugged in, gives a smaller rectangle, results in a smaller rectangle, and the dog learns to sit directly and specifically in that rectangle. To demonstrate the use of the rectangle, I simply place the dog at one end, as you can see here, and take a treat, hold it over the back of my left hand, which is holding the leash close to the snap, and see if I can get bunny hops down the middle. Yes. Yes. This is similar to the technique that Terry Arnold describes in one of her books. Yes. 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 I do that from one end to the other, and in the process, we'll probably have about 6 sets. Each set is controlled and specifically the same as the previous set. The beauty of that, in my mind, is that it gives the dog the exact same position 6 consecutive times, and therefore enhances the muscle memory that is developing. Just to show that without a treat each time. Okay, over here. Come on, guy. Here, let's go. Front. Yes. Yes. And I'll sometimes switch to my mouth. These are just the goldfish that we all use. Yes. 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 So that explains very quickly how this long rectangle works. So I'd also like to say thank you, Sylvia, if you happen to be looking at this, because it was your seminar that gave me the idea. Now I find that this helps tremendously in accuracy, and it's well worth the time to train it. The way that I train it is as I indicated, but I will normally do 2 or 3 back and forth on the slot, on the rectangle, and then in a room where I have a mirror at the far end and a mirror at the other end, I'll simply see how it's working with them and watch. So I would imagine if there's a mirror back in here behind the dog, yes, 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 do that sort of thing. Another way to use the long rectangle is on side sits to make sure that you're getting a good side sit. And in that case, the way I train it is I place the dog in the slot, as you can see, and simply take short 1 step forward. Yes. 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 I would then swing around outside of the rectangle with a mirror on that wall facing me, and repeat the same process 3 times without the aid of the rectangle. Yes. 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 Good boy. Good guy. In doing finishes, I use the offset H and simply do it as I'm demoing here. Here, sit. Good boy. Good guy. Yes. Okay, up. What? No. Up. Sit. Good boy. Yes. Now you'll notice that the offset H was moving a bit there. Normally I might put a toe on it to keep it from moving. So I work finishes both ways. I try to keep my finishes as simple as possible. I don't do a lot of high jumps and that sort of thing, simply because I feel my dogs get enough jumping and have to cope with enough jumping without actually doing it every time we practice finishes. Yes. So it's back and forth, back and forth. And I switch from and around to a swing finish. Now the offset H and the rectangle, you may have noticed, moved somewhat. And I normally don't train with them outside on a pavement like this. I normally train inside on a very short, tufted carpet, something like an office carpet. And in order to keep them still, in that case, I simply put a small Velcro patch here, here, and you can put them up here and here too. drop them down onto the carpet, and they stick and hold solidly. This is not the only thing that I do in training fronts and finishes. I also use the rods, and I have a number of other techniques that I use. I use a focal point, for example, that is down here, usually my wristwatch or my wrist or hand area, so that the dog can line up. I can hold